Lay on the wall and watch all y'all. You can't ninja a ninja, you crap it took full. Surrounded by crime cast, time for Tab Joe.
Hello. Welcome back to yet another video, and I'm excited, y'all. No content the last couple of days, I think. I'm recovering from a recent fight I had with a flying cockroach. I'll be alright though, but the draft is coming up in a couple weeks, and we're gonna deviate away from that. We're not gonna do any draft-related content today. We got another tier list position ranking. I did 53 quarterbacks last time. I had to one up myself. So if y'all look here, we have 63 NFL running backs from this previous season that met the requirements. Uh, if a guy didn't play last season, I didn't put him on here. If he played only a couple games, there was some shit I looked on. I made this a couple days ago, so I'm not exactly sure what the minimum requirements I used. And also, please remember to ignore these ads on the side. I don't get paid for them. Feel no obligation to get your Capital One business card. That's not for me. This is going to be a fucking ridiculously long video. The last one was like over an hour, I think. Maybe it was like 46 minutes. This is probably gonna be over an hour because I'm gonna look at stats for a bunch of these guys. If you look at the tiers here, I'll go over it. We have the best, all pro, Pro Bowl, very good, aight, average, low key bummy, and then the tier which shall not be named at the bottom right there. Let's just get right into it. First up, I have no idea what the order is for some of these. Some of them, is based on team, but I don't even know. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, if you would have told me, based on his rookie season, and also let's talk about how I'm going to be doing this. This is partly based on last season and also how good I think they're going to be going into next year. So now that we got that out of the way. Look at his rookie season. Only 13 games, 1,100 total yards, 5 touchdowns, no fumbles. Now, if you look at this previous season, only played 10 games. I mean, he had 6 touchdowns, no fumbles. But year one, he was a good role player for a very good team. This season, he was not their best running back. Wasn't even their second best running back. And for a first round pick, that is very disappointing. I just don't think, I don't know what he is now. I'm not sure what his future is with the Chiefs. I'm going to put him in the average tier, which in the grand scheme of things is like, man, first round running back, 3 years into their career, that's rough. That's rough. But I'm not sure the Chiefs are going to be complaining about that, all things considered. Travis Etienne, after missing his entire rookie season, came in and balled for the Jaguars. I'm going to put him. Keep in mind, this is a projection kind of looking into next season. So I want to put him in that Pro Bowl tier. I think I'm going to put him right now into the very good tier. And we can change some things around going, later on. But look at Etienne. It is kind of shocking, how good he was this season after not playing on me. 1,441 yards, 5 touchdowns. Fumbles were a problem. I'll admit that. But if the guy has over 1,100 yards rushing and 300 yards in the air in his rookie season, hey man, I'm scared for next season. If you told me next season he put up over 1,700 yards of scrimmage, I would not be surprised. And just because I talked myself into it, I'm putting him in the Pro Bowl tier. Obviously, last season he was not a Pro Bowl caliber player, but next season I think he could do very, very big things on potentially a very good Jaguars team. Rhamondre Stevenson, even though this season he was better than Etienne, looking into next season, I think I'm going to put him in the very good tier. I think that Jaguars offense next season has a lot more potential than the Patriots offense. But if we're talking about Rhamondre just in and of itself, he was certainly a better player this season. And very shocking. I mean, I remember last season, I was looking at this, I was just checking the stats. I'm like, who is this Stevenson guy? Because he had a couple good games. Look at that, over 700 yards from scrimmage last season. But look at this season, 1,461. Like, what? And I love his the receiving aspect to his game. It says he played all 17, but he really didn't. I mean, I think he got hurt like early in the Cardinals game, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. He missed a good amount of time. He did not play a full 17 games, but I talked myself into it. He is also going to be in this Pro Bowl tier with Etienne, but I like Stevenson. I mean, second-year player. You look, he's not the youngest guy. He's 24 years old, but I think two young guys, Stevenson and Etienne, who could potentially next season, hey, and you are going to see throughout this video, the running back position is the most talented position in the NFL, and it really isn't close. I mean, there are going to be guys here. I mean, we're talking about two guys here who potentially both be 1,500 plus yards from scrimmage guys next season, and they're not even going to be top 10 possibly. So let's just keep getting into it. This is Jeff Wilson, if I'm not mistaken. We don't have to look into his stats. Him and Raheem Mostert. They're actually going to both go into the same tier. They're both going to go into the I tier because they were both a part of that 49ers system under Mike McDaniels, and then followed Mike McDaniels to the Dolphins, and they were pretty good in both spots. Not very good. You know, they're both in the same type of category. In a Mike McDaniels slash 49ers offense, they look very solid, but I don't think they'd be doing much on other teams. That being said, I have them above Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Respect to both these guys. They're kind of joined at the hip, but I don't think very good in Pro Bowl. Let me put it this way. Anywhere above these two guys, I think could be the featured back on a very good team. I don't think either of these guys could be the number one running back on a very good team. Let me put it that way. Devin Singletary, I will put him in very good. And let's peep his stats real quick. Crazy, he is still a free agent, is Devin Singletary. By the way, one of the best college football players ever. I know he played at like FAU or something like that, but I think he had like 34 touchdowns or something. Like his junior season, it was something crazy when I was looking at his college stats. Nonetheless, look at the consistency. That's my favorite thing about Devin Singletary. Look at these 4 seasons. I mean, and his rookie season is kind of his most impressive season. Only played 12 games. God damn. Very, very impressive. I didn't even know that. But yeah, I mean, I love the consistency. He's never been the guy, the Bills' offense, they're not going to heavily rely on a single running back to produce much. But I mean, he's still gotten his. I mean, you know, up right at 1,100 yards these previous 2 seasons. He obviously gives you that threat as a receiver. He's a powerful runner, though. I'm very excited to see where he goes. I'm surprised he was guys like David Montgomery got signed before Singletary, but he is really undersized. How tall is he? He's like 5'7". That might be a little generous even. But I mean, he's a really small guy, really powerful though. Good runner, good catcher. I like Devin Singletary, but I do not think he is on the same level as Etienne or Stevenson. I think that's pretty fair. Next up, the guy probably replacing him in Buffalo, it's James Cook. Not much to say. Second round pick, I think a little surprisingly, out of Georgia, national champion. Um, he had a good rookie season. A little underrated, by the way. I am after the draft. I'm going to come up with a lot of content talking about this previous season, like underrated guys, rookies, overrated guys. But James Cook was a very slept-on rookie, and let me put it this way: looking into next season, he could very easily be one of those guys that break out. And a lot of people are like, "Dang, I didn't hear much about him last season." But hey, James Cook, watch out for him next season. Let me put him at the top of I tier, actually, just to signify that. Breece Hall, this is going to be the toughest one. I mean, he was a rookie, only played like the first 6, 7 games, I think, maybe even less than that. But looking into next season, I have to put him at the top of very good tier. He has special written all over him. He is impossible to bring down. He is a threat as a receiver out of the backfield. Most guys are nowadays. But it's something about him. And I'm a big Kenneth Walker fan as a Seahawks fan, but Breece Hall, I almost would bet money that he is going to be the best running back from this previous draft class. And it's a talented one. I mean, you already had like 3,000-yard rushers from it, but Breece Hall is a very, very special running back. And next season, whether or not they get Aaron Rodgers, that's like up in the mist, like up in the air now. But I know Breece Hall is going to be a monster next season. This is Michael Carter. Yeah, not much to say. He is a solid backup running back. I think if the Jets O line was a little better, he would look a lot better. Um, but he just hasn't had enough touches for me to say that he's on any of these guys' level. Not much to say about Michael Carter. J.K. Dobbins, tough one to evaluate because I'm gonna have to put him in the I tier. But I mean, let's just take a look at it. The talent is obviously there, but it's injuries, man. Injuries just holding this guy back. Only 2 seasons. First season, 900 yards, 9 touchdowns, 6 yards a carry. And at 5.7 this season, I didn't even realize he was that good this season. Man, I just hope he puts it together, man. You notice, I mean, 22 to 24, he missed all of last season. And it's like, man, I want to see a healthy J.K. Dobbins, but I mean, what was it, a torn ACL? We're never even going to see this version of him again. So it kind of sucks, but I mean, hey, if you average 5.7 yards a carry coming off an ACL in limited time, I do like his upside still, but just not enough right now for me to put him any higher than that I tier. Gus Edwards, though, more interesting in my opinion, but I'm gonna have to put him in that same tier. Take a look at Gus Edwards. I'm not sure who the #1 running back is going to be next season in Baltimore. Could even be Bijan Robinson. I've been seeing a couple mock drafts having him going there. But 4 years now for Gus Edwards there. He also missed all of last season, man. Something about these Baltimore running backs. Look at that consistency, though, his first 3 seasons. That's interesting. I didn't even know that. But this previous season, he also, was coming off injury. Both him and J.K. Dobbins, I think if they were the featured guys, they both would be very, very good. And obviously, the Ravens' run scheme is, it's similar to the 49ers where everybody looks good. But I think both these guys, could be very good if given opportunities. And then Kenyon Drake, let me tell you all right now, this I tier is going to be very, very full by the end of this video. Did Kenyon Drake end up leading them in running yards last season? I think he did. Oh, no, he didn't. But he's one of those guys. I mean, how many teams has he played for now? One, two, three, four. Four already. He's only 28. I tier might have been a little. I thought he was a little better than he was. But I mean, if you look at his career as a whole, it's kind of wrapping up. Let's be honest here. Kenyon Drake doesn't have much left in the tank, but what he did for Baltimore last season, if you look at this, he could do that for any team in the league. He could go to any team in the league and put up about 500 yards in around 12 games, I feel like. And if you can do that, you belong in the I tier. Bottom of the I tier, but still in the I tier. Joe Mixon, ignoring what he does with guns and shooting children, let's put him. This may be a little controversial. I'm not going to put him in the Pro Bowl tier. I'm going to put him in the very good tier. It's something about Joe Mixon where I feel like he does not do as much as some of these other players, and he actually had an evolution in his game. If we take a look here and look at the evolution of his receiving ability out of the backfield, I mean, look at that, 400 yards this previous season. That's very impressive. I don't feel like these people right here who were paying attention to him in his early days would have thought that he would have been this guy who put up 440 yards through the air in only 14 games. I mean, he easily would have been a 500 plus receiving yard back last season, which is very impressive. And he's also a guy who knows his way in the end zone, does not fumble much. These are things that I like. But then you look at the yards per carry. 4.1 on his career, 3.9 last season. Let's acknowledge Bengals O-line has sucked historically. However, I feel like Joe Mixon kind of gets thrown around a lot in like that top 5, top 6 range, which I do not necessarily agree with at all. However, if he were to put together a season where he had, like 1,000 yards with that 500 receiving, now we're getting, it's getting interesting. But I haven't seen that. That one Pro Bowl season he had with the 16 touchdowns, I feel like that was kind of an outlier. Big reason for the Bengals getting to the Super Bowl that year, but I think he's just not as well put together as some people say. And I'm gonna put him in that very good tier. Top of the very good tier, though. I'll show some respect. Samaje Perine. Uh, let me let me check first before I speak. When I made this list, I had a opinion of Samaje. Let me make sure I'm thinking about it correctly here. Good receiving back. I'll point that out. Where did he sign? Was it the Broncos? I think he might have signed with the Broncos. Yep, it was. You know, good receiving threat out of the backfield. I'll say that. I was gonna put him. I gotta put him in average. I'll put him in average with an acknowledgement of his value as a receiver out of the backfield. I don't think he's necessarily a good runner of the football, but hey, those Jerick McKinnon, Samaje Perine type guys, they have value. And I think, with a offensive guru like Sean Payton, we could see Samaje Perine in some interesting positions next season, but no, he is not. Yeah, he's not enough. He's not with these guys. These guys can get 200 plus touches a season and produce a lot. I don't think Samaje Perine is that type of guy. Zonovan Wilson, what an interesting guy, or interesting name at least. I'll put him in the average. And let me make sure. I remember looking at this. Zonovan, I call him Zonovan Wilson. A lot of Wilsons on the Jets. It's Zonovan Knight. He just barely met the requirements. Let me say this though. You look at the 3.5 yards a carry and you're like, damn, that's very trash. But 400 yards from scrimmage would be awesome. 2 fumbles, 1 touchdown. Zonovan Knight he's floating. But let me put it this way. 400 yards in 7 games. How many guys could do that now? You may say a lot, and I'd agree with you. But as a 21-year-old, let's keep this in mind now, not expecting to play much, surely, when the season started. 400 yards in 7 games, that's a little impressive. Even though he's at the bottom of average, floating around low-key bummy, hey, 400 even yards, that looks clean at least. We'll acknowledge that. Nick Chubb, he's going to be the highest on this list so far, without a doubt. All pro, certainly. I mean, let's just look at Nick Chubb's stats. It deserves paying attention to. All this, let's not forget that horrifying injury he had at Georgia in college. Just look at this. Every season of his career, that annoys me so much that he didn't have 1,000 yards his rookie season, because then it would just be like, God damn, the consistency. But I mean, just look at this, and it's every season 5 yards a carry. The Browns have a good offensive line, but still. And then last season just completely breaking out. I mean, 1,500 yards, also through the air. Let's not forget this. His sophomore season was very good and very slept on, but this previous season, how many touches? 329 touches, 1 fumble. Man, he is aging very well. And if I'm starting to talk about, Hall of Fame potential here with Nick Chubb, he has it. And, I'm kind of going past the point of this video, just looking at last season, going into next season. But man, Nick Chubb, he's a guy to keep your eye on as far as defining running backs for this generation. And certainly worthy of that All-Pro tier. And you could even put him as the best, and I wouldn't even fight you too much on that. For me right now, he's the 3rd best in the league, and we'll get into who's above him. But Nick Chubb, man, scary, scary player. Kareem Hunt, this is a tough one. Usually I would even put him in this very good tier, but last season was really a down year. I had to put him in the IT tier. And if you look at Kareem Hunt, so crazy that this man was considered, by me and others, like as the best young prospect. I mean, look at that rookie season. This rookie season does not get, and he was not an early pick, was he? Where was he drafted? I didn't even say, was he undrafted? No, there's no way he was undrafted. They usually say where oh, here it is. 3rd round, they're wrong, yeah. But yeah, I mean, to not be a 1st or 2nd round guy and do that in your rookie season, that's impressive. Since then, we know what happened, the reason he had to leave Kansas City. But, these, damn, I was only thinking, these last 2 seasons have just not been good for him. Let's call it what it is. Especially this previous season, it's just like, 27 yards a game, still a threat through the air. Has he signed with anybody yet? I don't think so. Yeah, I think he's still a free agent. But, my opinion of him, when I saw that Kareem Hunt, that one year where he was really helping out the Browns as a backup, I was like, okay, he can still be a top guy somewhere. But then these last 2 seasons have come around, and I'm like, ugh, I just don't know. And he has to go in that I tier as a result, I still think he can be a, 1,200 yard from scrimmage type of guy on the right team. But how many teams? Look how many guys already are above him, 6, and then I mean I think James Cook, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. How many teams would look at Kareem Hunt and be like, "Oh yeah, he can be a starter for us"? I'm not sure. This is off. This is the guy from the Steelers. What's his name? I forget dude's name. He is on the Steelers. Damn. I thought I was gonna get through everybody's name without skipping a beat. He's on the Steelers though. We're gonna put him in average because I know he didn't do very much. Let me find bro's name real quick. Is it Jalen Warren? Yep, that's Jalen Warren I'm looking at. And behind a pretty bad offensive line, almost 5 yards a carry. But I mean, he's a 24-year-old guy, under 400 yards. I mean, yeah, I mean, I just can't put him much higher than this. But, keep an eye out. Most of you are probably like me, you never heard of Jalen Warren, but to average 5 yards a carry last season behind a very bad Steelers offensive line, hey now, let's watch out. Moving on though. Dameon Pierce. This is tough. Rookie season, very good. Over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. Didn't get in the end zone a whole lot, but I mean the Texans didn't get in the end zone a whole lot. Looking into next season though, hopefully a very improved offense. What will his role be? I have to put him in very good. I was debating Pro Bowl. I'm actually going to put him another sneaky get for this running back draft class. Last year's and potentially this upcoming draft, running back position is just getting so much deeper. But yeah, man, it's tough to think how good he'll be next season because obviously they're going to try and get the whatever rookie quarterback a lot of touches. But I mean, they could lean on him very heavily as a result. And if he can stay healthy, hey man, Dameon Pierce could be a low-key dark horse candidate for a Pro Bowl, and I'm here for it. But I'm not. I don't know if I'm willing to jump all the way there after one season. Jonathan Taylor. I mean, from a guy who I don't think he missed a game like his entire football career to how many did he miss last? I have to drop him all the way to Pro Bowl tier, which is so sad. But I mean, let's just look at it because he was a bell cow back in college. Didn't miss a game in college. Didn't miss a game his first 2 seasons, and then oh, he did though. The hell, I was lied to. He did miss. He only played 15 rookie year, but I mean, last season only played 11. That's tough, man. When your yards per carry drop by a whole yard as a running back, that's scary. That's very scary. And he still put up over 1,000 yards. Let's not pretend now that Jonathan Taylor was just a bum all of a sudden, because the Colts as a team disappointed. That's very fair to say. Jonathan Taylor was just, a result of that. But I mean, 18-4, 1,800 to 800 yards per game dropped off by 30. Man, receiving yards a game dropped by man. It was rough last seven. Just look at that, man. Oh man, that hurts to watch. But like I said, let's not pretend that he is no longer capable of being. I'll put him at the top of the tiers, show some respect. But next season, with potentially Will Levis coming in, oh man, pray for Jonathan Taylor because it's not going to get any better. The grass does not get greener for the Colts coming up. So best of luck to Jonathan Taylor with whatever they do in the draft. We have another one from the Colts. This is fucking Deion Jackson. Is that his name? I feel like it's Deion Jackson. Let me put him in average. Let me make sure that I'm thinking of him correctly. That's so I feel pretty confident that that name came to me right. Yeah, it's Deion Jackson. Came in for Jonathan Taylor. Didn't do much. 3.5 yards a carry. Oh God, he really didn't do much. Impressive though. Let's look at that. 209 yards as a receiver. Hey man, that's nothing to scoff at. But yeah, okay. 3.5 yards a carry. Deion Jackson. I'm sorry. I didn't want to have to do it, but we can't be having that. And at least Zonovan Knight, he had 400 yards in what was it, 7 games. He had a full 16. Barely got to 400. Come on, Deion Jackson. Come on, man. Next up, Zach Moss. Low key a bust. Low key a bust in Buffalo. Not sure what he did list. Let me make sure. Almost 500 this season. Not that bad, actually. 4.9 yards a carry. Hey now. Only played 13 games. Yeah, he belongs in this average. I mean, what was he drafted? Was he second round, I want to say? Third round. But yeah, for a third round guy to be traded after 2 years, that's a little disappointing. But, 5 yards a carry this season. Best season of his career, surely. So that's interesting to look at. But yeah, not a whole lot to say about Zach Moss. Next up, oh man, this one hurt. Is this Damien Harris? Let me make sure I'm not getting his name wrong. Yeah, it is Damien Harris. What a fall off from last season. I don't know why. It's really just the emergence of Ramondre Stevenson, but look at that man. From 15 touchdowns to 3. And he did miss some time, but he also missed 2 games last year. That's crazy. 1,015. Look at the yards per carry as well. It was decent. Kind of. I mean, it's just Ramondre Stevenson took over. He dealt with injuries as well. But man, if I would have made this list last year, he might have been the All Pro tier. Honestly, I was very high on Damien Harris last season. But I mean, is he a free agent? 4 years. Did they bring him back yet? Third round pick. Oh, the Bills signed him? What the fuck? Wait, what? This is big news to me. He joined the Bills. What? Hey man, this is news to me. Wow, I didn't even know that. So there's their Devin Singletary replacement. Okay. Wow. I mean, I apologize for my unpreparedness on this topic. I have to put him in I because of what he did the previous season. Looking into next season as a replace. So James Cook, what they're going to do, James Cook is going to be the third down back, obviously, to catch up the backfield. That's his strength. Probably is going to be there starting as well. But Damien Harris, man, hey now, let him get rolling in that Bills offense. He could do some damage there. I'm excited for that. I can't believe I didn't recognize that earlier that he was with the Bills. Here we got James Robinson. What another guy who was very good the previous season, and then out of nowhere, just off on a cliff. I mean, this is going to be crazy to look at. 1,400 as a rookie, 1,000 last season, and then all of a sudden, man, 3.9 yards a carry, 2.9 with the Jets. If this was just off last season, you're definitely going in low-key bummy James Robinson, but I have to pay respect to what you were. First 2 seasons, keep in mind, this was dealing with goddamn Urban Meyer. Wasn't that Urban Meyer last season? Oh, man. How are you this decent with Urban Meyer and then all of a sudden, I mean, I guess it's just being outcompeted by ETN, similar situation with Damian Harris, but man, that's rough. That is a rough fall off, Mr. Robinson. And here we go. We got that man. We got the man. You're gonna see one of my guys I got above Nick Chubb, but how good is he? He's the best man. He's just the best. We don't even have to go into his stats because that's just disrespectful. We all know who Derrick Henry is. Derrick Henry might be the only player on this list in this age of football where he can be the best player. The running back can be the best player on the team, and that team can be good. I mean, he carried the Titans to the AFC Championship. I think they had a lead on the Chiefs, that AFC Championship. Following season, they were the first seed. And then obviously Tannehill sold them. This previous season, they had absolutely no quarterback play. Whether it was Tannehill, whether it was Malik Willis, fucking Josh Dobbs, Derrick Henry was still doing his thing. Offensive line has gotten worse and worse every year. Defense has gotten worse and worse every year. Derrick Henry is the constant. Derrick Henry is the Titans. Let's get that right. Without him, they'd be the worst team in football. He gives them a floor of respectability that no other running back gives their team. I'm sorry. Derrick Henry is the only running back who is the biggest part of the franchise, and I say that confidently. Moving on. Latavius Murray, he is going into this I tier, and I was very surprised how he was just sitting on the street before the Broncos called. And keep in mind, when the Broncos called Latavius Murray, we're going to get to why in a second. They were in no man's land, okay, with as far as running back play went. And he was solid. Look at this. 800 yards, 5 touchdowns in just 12 games. That's very respectable. I mean, bro would have been a 1,100-yard total guy from scrimmage if he played the whole season. Keep in mind, this was when the Broncos had nothing going as far as a run game is concerned. And, people are not going to look back and be like, oh, man, you remember that season Latavius Murray had on the Broncos? But, hey, man, he was very, very solid last season. On a horrible team, he gets my respect. I don't know how many guys could have came up out of nowhere and been good behind that Broncos O-line, and he did it. Next up, the first entrant into the Ezekiel Elliott tier will not be Ezekiel Elliott. It will be, crazily, isn't it crazy? This man was one of the best college running backs in history, ever. He had a very good stint, not a great stint, a very good stint with the Chargers. Multiple Pro Bowls. He was even good in Denver his first 2 seasons, but he just can't overcome the fumbles. He can't overcome the fumbles. They followed him for a while. And look at that yards per carry. Man, oh man. I would not be surprised if he got death threats from Broncos fans last season. He was horrible. Awful. And look at what he was. Look at what he used to be. 2 Pro Bowls. This 3-year stretch. Hey man. This was a good 3-year stretch. Last 2 seasons with the Broncos, that's a good 2-year stretch. And then last season, God. They just benched him. I think if I remember correctly, he wasn't even hurt. They were just rolling with people like Mike Boone over him. They were finding people off the streets because Melvin Gordon was not it. Sad to see, man. Sad to see. Sole occupant of the Ezekiel Elliott tier for now. But man, that was a rough season. Isaiah Pacheco, 7th round draft pick, goes in the Pro Bowl tier. Let me tell you why. We don't have to check the stats. I think most people are already aware. He was a monster this season for the Chiefs. Big reason why they won the Super Bowl. And next season, he could be even better. And I say that scarily. He could be better. He will be better next season. He's going to get the whole off season to prepare to be the number 1 back. They are going to scheme him and find new ways to get him involved. Next season, Pacheco could put up possibly 1,400 yards just in the run game. That's scary. Very, very scary. And I'm not ready for it. And my team's in the NFC. Prayers up for all the AFC West teams. They got to deal with this guy because it's going to get very bad very quickly. Moving on. Jerick McKinnon. What a storyline. He's going to go all the way into the I tier. And who would have been expecting that? Because if you look at, this is his 3rd stop, is it not, with the Chiefs? Look at just what the previous season, 13 games, 169 yards. And out of nowhere, 9 receiving touchdowns? I don't think I understand. There are some Hall of Fame wide receivers, Hall of Fame, who 9 touchdowns was a good season for them. Jerick McKinnon had 9. What? Where? How? The Chiefs found a way to get him involved in the pass game. It was really creative. Just kind of a perfect, because the 49ers, they wanted to, but I think he was healthy this season. They kind of got him involved, he showed his potential there of what kind of a weapon he can be. His final 2 seasons in Minnesota were low-key very productive. He's always had that potential, but Andy Reid just realized it, man. I mean, look at that. He was 12th in comeback player of the year voting. What? Hey, man, that just reaffirms all the things I was saying. 9 receiving touchdowns for Jerick McKinnon. That's just one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And I don't say that lightly. 9 receiving. I won't even bore y'all with it again, but hey, man. Jerick McKinnon, firmly, I'll put him in the middle, firmly in this I tier, and that's good for him. I'll clap it up even for Jerick McKinnon and what he did last season. Josh Jacobs, straight to All Pro. Don't even need to talk about it really. Straight to All Pro. The man had over 2,000 yards from scrimmage last season. Yeah, first round pick, and to actually live up to that as a running back nowadays is very difficult. He's done that. Over 1,000 yards every season from scrimmage at least. And yeah, I don't see a reason where he shouldn't, lead the league in touches next season. He might do 2,000 back to back if he stays healthy, hopefully. But yeah, he's a monster. Finding his groove. No, do we have to talk about Josh Jacobs? We all know what he just did last season. All pro, firmly. Austin Ekeler. This man, let me make sure we all understand who Austin Ekeler is first before I even get into it. Austin Ekeler has led the NFL, let me say this twice for y'all, has led the NFL in touchdowns back-to-back seasons and hasn't been a Pro Bowler. These are Pro Bowl yards. Easily Pro Bowl yardage. Most certainly, I mean, this is all pro touchdowns, Pro Bowl yards, and nobody knows how good he is. And the NFL was starting to push him a little bit this past season. This is even his first time doing it. I mean, look at this season he had. 1,511. Austin Ekeler, man. See, this is the part that is going to be a little difficult because I also have to look into next season and how he's going to do. They could very possibly draft Bijan Robinson. Austin Ekeler is unhappy with this contract situation. So do I put him in All Pro? Do I put him in Pro Bowl? I think I got to put him in Pro Bowl because obviously All Pro talent, All Pro numbers, but looking into next season, I don't even know how much, the Chargers are going to want to play him, how much they're going to want to get him involved because he doesn't want to be there. It's a very rough situation over there right now. And it affects this ranking, unfortunately. Next up is this Josh Kelly. Don't tell me this is Josh fucking Kelly. Why do I have Josh Kelly on this list? God, let's check the stats. All right. Ezekiel Elliott. Oh man, how do I describe Ezekiel Elliott? A thief. A criminal. Well, okay, I was going to go into a whole spiel about how he robbed the Cowboys with that contract, but knowing his previous history, let me not throw around those, criminal accusations. But Ezekiel Elliott fittingly goes into the Ezekiel Elliott tier. Let's just look into it real quick, because if you try and make the argument to me that Ezekiel Elliott is not bad because he had 876 yards last season, the man averaged 3.8 yards per carry on a very, very good offense. On a very, very good offense, this man averaged 3.8 yards per carry. And I understand, hey, I'm not a fool to realize that he was used in short yardage situations. Hey, he didn't fumble. He had 12 touchdowns. Let's clap it up. Let's clap it up for Zeke. This man is not a top 50 running back in football. He's not top 60. This man, let's just look. 2019, 4.5 yards a carry. That's average. 2020, 4 yards a carry. Last season was the big bounce back year for Zeke. 4.2 yards per carry. This season, 3.8 yards a carry. That's horrible. Let's call it what it is. That's horrible for running back. 3.8 yards a carry. And let's look at this now. All these years, he was a threat in the passing game. They got Tony Pollard. Zeke is no longer needed. He was so much no longer needed, they cut him and took a massive cap hit because of it. Do you cut somebody who's good? Do you cut somebody who's productive? No, you don't do that. You cut somebody who is a detriment to your team because you give him 248 touches in the NFL and he can't get to 1,000 yards. That's why you cut somebody. Zeke may be in the XFL next season. Let's call it what it is. Zeke was awful last season. He has been falling off precipitously. He had a Hall of Fame start to his career, I'll be honest. But Zeke, man, and the Zeke fans, there are people, humans on this earth, that still think Zeke is a top 10, top 5 running back in football. You're delusional. Stay off the crack. Zeke could play in the XFL next season, and I would not be surprised. Okay? Okay. Let's get out of my little Zeke rant here. Moving on. Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is going to go on the Pro Bowl tier. Easily. Easily Pro Bowl tier because he's better than Zeke, obviously. But let's just look at how. Keep in mind, everything Tony Pollard has done has been while overcoming the fact there's a guy ahead of him making 10 times as much money as him. So he has really had to fight and claw for his opportunities as a 4th-round pick. And let's look at what he's done. Last season was where everybody found out who he was, okay? And in this previous season, man, 5.2. That's what you do. That's what a running back behind a good offensive line and a high-powered offense, that's what their yards per carry should look like. Being a threat, an explosive threat in the passing game. That's what you do. And that's my opinion. He's 25. How old is Zeke? Like 27, 28? It's not like, come on. 12 touchdowns, no fumbles. Tony Pollard is the real deal. Next season, hey man, I love this part where I get to predict if he gets up to he doesn't even need 300. Let's say he gets 280, 285 touches next season. You do the math. What will this number be if this stays the same and he gets 280 touches next season? Very good. I'll spoil it for you. Very good numbers if he gets more touches next season, and I think he will. He has to recover from a major surgery, a major injury he suffered against the 49ers. But hey man, I'm excited. I'm not really a Cowboys fan, but I'm excited to see what Tony Pollard does next season because he's an exciting player, and I hate Zeke. So yeah, Pro Bowl tier for Tony Pollard, and give me one moment here. Look, back in. Look, who is next? Saquon, very interesting guy to rank, very tough guy to rank. I will put him in Pro Bowl. Not all pro, here's why. Last season, people love to say that it was his bounce back year. It was a redemption year. He was in the running for comeback player of the year, right? However, I don't necessarily agree because it wasn't his best season. I just don't think that one season is enough to wipe out the previous 2 seasons of, a little bit disappointment. And look, he had a freak injury. He dealt with a horrible offensive line. But do I think Saquon Barkley is one of the 4 or 5 best running backs in football? No, I don't. Do I think he's one of the 6 or 7 best? Sure, yeah, sure, totally. I'll put him at the top of the Pro Bowl tier. But I need to see more. I can't just look at this one comeback season and say, oh yeah, that makes up for the 2 before that. Next season he'll be even better. I'm not sure. This guy has proven that he's inconsistent with injuries and with play. I hope he's good. I have nothing against Saquon Barkley. I kind of like Saquon Barkley. But I need to see a body of work, not just a good season here, a down season here. And so Saquon, I'll put you at the top of Pro Bowl, but I need to see back-to-back years from Saquon. That's what I need. Miles Sanders, this is tough. This is very, very tough. Because just based off last season, I'd put him in Pro Bowl. Obviously, he played on the best roster in football. Looking into next season, he's not going to be doing that at all. I'll put him at the top of very good. He averaged, nearly 6 yards a carry last season on Philly. It's just, there is going to be a big drop-off, and he's going to find out very quickly that the Panthers are not Philly. But I do think, I'd be shocked, at least if he stays healthy. I'd be shocked if he doesn't get to 1,300, 1,400 yards from scrimmage. But he's going to have to adjust and realize that the holes he ran through last season are not going to be as big. And we'll see how he adjusts. And hey, if he puts together some back-to-back good seasons now with different teams, he will be one of the highest jumpers on this list next season. I'll put it like that. Brian Robinson, after getting shot multiple times, came out to the 50 Cent theme music. And it was interesting because the Commanders kind of had to rework their entire identity as a running football team. And Brian Robinson was a big reason for that. Obviously, I can't put him into the very good tier. He's played one season, not even an entire one season. His yards per carry weren't great, but I'll put him in the I tier. I think he has a lot of potential just as a big bruiser of running back. Antonio Gibson. Ah, this one hurts. I like Antonio. I don't know why. I think it was that one Thanksgiving Day game against the Cowboys. He had like 3 touchdowns. But if we take a serious approach to this, I don't think he's better than Brian Robinson. I think he's kind of been relegated to that receiving option. But like he's a good receiving. I mean, man, his first 2 seasons were really good. He dealt with a lot of fumbles last season. I didn't even know that. 3.7 yards a carry. It's weird. The Commanders liked to run the ball a lot last season, but they did not run it very well. I'll put Gibson in the I tier as well. I think him and Brian Robinson are both good. They could really benefit from a guy like O'Cyrus Torrence. If the Commanders took O'Cyrus Torrence in the first round, hey, they could be like one of the 3 best running attacks in football next season. But just based off last season, because that's all I have to go off, right? I have 1 season of Brian Robinson and 3 of Gibson. Neither of them have shown me that they are in that those upper tiers, David Montgomery. Him and Singletary are very, very similar in the fact that they were so consistent their first 4 years. Let's look at Montgomery. And keep in mind, Montgomery and these Bears offensive lines, I pray for him. Over 1,000 yards every season. And he's missed time. Last season missed 4 games. Man, such a consistent play. I love these guys. I love these guys. He's a threat out of the backfield, playing in Detroit now. Division rival to the Bears. Better offensive line. Better coaching. Better quarterback play. More weapons. I'm excited. I hope he stays healthy because, hey, he could put together low-key like a Pro Bowl season if he wins that job convincingly over DeAndre Swift. I like David Montgomery because he had to deal with all the shit from the Bears and still put together productive seasons. Just based off the strength of that, I'm going to put him in the very good tier, but even above a Singletary or a Breece Hall or a Dameon Pierce. I'll put him at the top of very good. I think that's a good spot for him. Khalil Herbert, this is really just based off one season. This is the impressive thing. We know how much the Bears suck. The Bears are basically a JV team last season in the NFL. But look at this. 5.7 yards a carry behind the Bears O-line? How? Where? Why? How did you manage to do this? No fumbles either. As the number 1 back next season, well, actually, we'll get into who they sign as well, but I'm excited to see what he can do. I have to put him in I because it's just the body of work is not there. He also missed a lot of time last season. I have to put him in I because I can't put him any higher. But hey, I'm excited. Next up, Jamal Williams. Such a cool guy. I just watched an interview with him. He was on the Pivot podcast with Aaron Jones. I love that. I love that podcast. Do I put him in Pro Bowl just because he led the league in touchdowns last season? Because he could be the number 1 back on the Saints next year. I hope the Saints take Jahmyr Gibbs, but if they don't and they just roll with Jamal Williams, hey man, I've said that a lot this video, but I'm intrigued. So intrigued, I'll put him in Pro Bowl. I mean, he led the league in touchdowns, so I have the evidence there. He had over 1,000 yards of scrimmage. He could do even more with the Saints, honestly. He could. That's a bit of a gamble. That could be one of the ones on this list where, he could slide precipitously if he does not do that good with the Saints. But I'm gonna keep him in Pro Bowl. I'm gonna keep him in Pro Bowl. DeAndre Swift, so disappointing, man. First round pick. Didn't he drop a touchdown pass his first game though? That was kind of a sign, I feel like. He goes in the eye, but it's just so disappointing. That potential. Drafted over Nick Chubb, wasn't he? Or was that Sony Michel? Yeah, I think that's a different class. But DeAndre Swift, man, second round pick, my bad, but still 35th overall. He just hasn't put it together. I don't know why. Maybe it's injuries. 3 games rookie year, 4 games last year, 3 games this year. But he has the yards per carry. I don't know what it is. I don't know why the Lions don't believe in him. I don't know why he can't put together just that one monster season. Maybe this is it. I mean, contract year, right? Potentially. If he wins that over David Montgomery, that's going to be a tough job, though. Montgomery has shown a level of consistency that he has not shown. But if he can win that job, hey, the sky really is the limit. Because look at the talent's there. Look at the yards per carry. Look at him as a receiving threat. He's super talented. I just don't know why he can't put it together, man. Top of the tier. I need a big season from DeAndre Swift. Aaron Jones, Pro Bowler, very good. I'll put him in Pro Bowl. I'll put him in Pro Bowl, especially since I had Jamal Williams in there. Looking at this list now, I am going to put Miles Sanders in there as well. Aaron Jones, very consistent. I already said I love those consistent guys, and that's what Aaron Jones has been. It's going to be rough though, because we're coming off a year, very good year for Aaron Jones, but looking into next season, you could look at this as two ways. You could say, oh, no Aaron Rodgers, that offense is going to fall off, and it's going to affect Aaron Jones negatively. Or you could look at it and say, hey, man, they're probably going to give him 320 touches, assuming he stays healthy. If that's the case, and if he, attacks that duty and that responsibility, and he levels up a little bit, hey now, Aaron Jones next season, potentially a career year. Yeah, I mean, I already know he's been a Pro Bowler. I know he's led the league in touchdowns, but next season, if he gets to that 300 range as far as touches is concerned, and he has to deal with A.J. Dillon, I get that. Aaron Jones could he could get up into this tier right here, that all-pro tier. Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook is a guy, I don't really think many people know this. The start to Dalvin Cook's career has very low key, very not talked about, been one of the best starts in the history of football. As far as these past 4 seasons, 4 Pro Bowls, missed time last season, 4 straight years of averaging, where is it? Over, what's that? Like over 90 yards a game, or 80, 4 straight years. That's impressive, man. Very impressive. He gets into the end zone too. I love that. We all know he's a threat as a receiver. I like Dalvin Cook. The Vikings have gone to a very pass-heavy offense, but he still finds with his ways. He still affects the game. Strong runner. Not a lot to say about Dalvin Cook, really, but he for sure goes into the top of the Pro Bowl tier. I love Dalvin Cook. One of my favorite running backs. Tyler Algier, another example of why this previous running back class I think will be legendary. I'm gonna put him in Pro Bowl tier. I have to put him in Pro Bowl tier because looking into next season, this man could have 1,300 rushing yards. That might even be a little disappointing. Keep in mind, so this man had 1,000 rushing yards last season, and he wasn't even heavily involved until like week 5 or something like that. And he wasn't even a real threat in the receiving game. He's just a thumper, a real thumper. I mean, until Cordero Patterson got hurt, he wasn't even really used. And he still he was just on fire by the end of the season. So going into next year, I'm concerned. The Falcons could really have something going because Algier will be a monster next season. 5th in offensive rookie of the year. He might even should have been higher, in my opinion. I don't even know who was above him, but man, Algier, watch out for him next season. Whole NFC South. I mean, Miles Sanders, Algier, Jamal Williams, and potentially, Bijan on the Buccaneers. This is what Kadero Hodge, I believe. Let me make sure I get his name right. Of the Falcons, yeah, Kadero Hodge. So the only name I messed up was Jalen Warren on the Steelers, I think. Why do I have him on this list? They have him listed as a receiver? That's not Kadero Hodge. No, that's not. Nah, I'm thinking of the wrong Falcon. This is Huntley. Caleb Huntley, isn't it? Yep, Caleb Huntley. I was thinking fucking wrong player. Okay. 366 rushing yards, almost 5 a carry, 12 games. That's impressive. That's impressive. He came in when Cordell Patterson was really hurt, and they needed somebody behind Algier. Falcons had one of the best rushing games in the league last season. With Mariota at quarterback, very underrated rushing attack last year in Atlanta. And Hodge, one of those guys, such a small body of work, similar to the Zonovan Wilson, the Jalen Warren, the Zach Moss. You can't have that small body of work and be any higher than average. However, very good first impression he made around the league, certainly. D'Onta Foreman. I do not think many people were expecting him to be as good as he was last season on the Panthers. He's getting sent to Chicago, though. Prayers, salute to you for taking that deal, buddy. I'm not sure how good he's going to be next year because, Khalil Herbert could easily win that job. So he has to compete with Khalil Herbert. And do we think he is going to get another 900 yards? I'm not sure. He has the talent. Bears offensive line sucks. It may not suck as bad next season. Who knows? But between him, Justin Fields, and Khalil Herbert, that could be a very, very good rushing attack. I'll put it that way. So if they're committed to that being their identity, then I do think he's going to get a lot of opportunities, but that's unknown. So I have to put him in I for now. Chuba Hubbard, if I'm not mistaken, he really came around towards the end of last season. Let me see if I'm right. I think I am. Still don't love. Never mind. I was about to say I don't love his yards per carry. I was thinking about last season. That's a big improvement from year 1 to year 2, as far as making your touches more efficient. I like to look at that. I really like to look at that. Him, Miles Sanders next season, that could be a nice little attack now. I don't have a lot to go off with Chuba. Only 2 seasons, only 300 total touches. But hey, if you put it together now, 300 for 1,408, that's not too bad. I will put him in I, which may be a little, I have guys like Edwards-Helaire and Zach Moss and P. Ryan in average, but I have Hubbard and Knight. I like Hubbard. I don't know what it is. I think he's a little better than what the Panthers think he is. Alvin Kamara, this is so tough because I have to put him in All-Pro, but the man could be spending next season in a fucking jail cell. I don't even know. I think he has a felony. I'm pretty sure he's fighting a felony case, which is so fucking hard to even find, stuff for it to verify. But I think he pistol whipped the guy in the elevator. If I'm not wrong, I'm not sure. But the stats speak for themselves. The man has had one of the best starts of his career in NFL history. He's had a Hall of Fame start, a first ballot Hall of Fame start. The man could easily put together 17,000 yards from scrimmage. He could easily put together 120, 130 touchdowns. That's crazy even saying out loud. He has to go on All-Pro tier. But I don't know. I don't know how it's going to look next season. I have no clue. Next season, honestly, you could tell me it would be Jamal Williams and Jahmyr Gibbs, no Alvin Kamara, and I'd believe you. Because I don't know what his future is like in New Orleans. No clue. Next up, Fournette. Fat Lenny. That story from preseason about him being overweight was hilarious to me because they talked about it on Undisputed as if he was like 300 pounds, and that was just funny. Low key, I'm going to put him in I. But I did not know how much of a receiving threat he was last season. Let me spell his fucking name. There it is. Look at this. Last season, 500 receiving yards. Wasn't even the first time he's done that. I didn't even know he had that aspect to his game, really. But I mean, the man's resume low-key kind of speaks for itself. 4 seasons of over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. I don't think the Bucks have brought him back yet, have they? Yeah, I don't think so. But one of the more underrated guys still available on the market, I feel like, because he's cleaned up his fumbling issues. He didn't really have any. I don't know why I thought that about him. 41-4, that's a very good ratio. Yards per carry last season was just tough. It was tough, but the whole Bucks offense was tough last season. So take with that what you will. I think Fournette's decent, and he could produce in a lot of places. Rachaad White, I have to put him in average, but I love his potential. 3rd-round pick last season out of Arizona State, or it was Arizona State or San Diego State. I think it was Arizona State. Very explosive college running back. I talked about him going to the Bucks last season. That was I thought he had a lot of potential, and he showed flashes for sure. But next season, hey man, if they don't bring back Fournette and they let Rachaad White go crazy, pay attention to him. Very, very high potential to break out next season. Who the hell is this? Is this Eno Benjamin? Oh my God, is that Eno Benjamin? The Cardinals last season was just pathetic. Is that how you spell his name? Is it E-N-O? Yep. Eno Benjamin, man. I just saw a dude's name on the box score a couple times. Decided to throw him in here. I mean, yeah. What the fuck? 3 teams last season? He had 500 yards. I mean, I'll put you in average, you know. I mean, you're not going to catch any in-depth Eno Benjamin analysis on this channel, but I'll put him in average. Cam Akers would have been in low-key bummy had he not finished the season as strongly as he did. We're actually going to look at his game log because he finished the season so strongly for somebody who started off so ass. Where is his game log? We have to look at this. Because it was amazing. Bear with me here. So let's look at the rushing yards here. This row. Look at what he started out with. Bummy. Then he missed time. He got hurt. Or he was inactive. I remember that. They were about to cut him. Came back. Still ass. But look at these last 3 games. 100. Had 3 touchdowns against the Broncos. Man. He finished the season so strong. 786 total yards. He's not really a big receiving threat. But what was that? 900 total yards? 7 total touchdowns. Shout out Cam Akers. From snatching a season from the jaws of being cut. He's actually going to go into the I tier just because of that. He was about to be cut and turned it up at the end of the season. I respect that from Cam Akers. Is this Darrell Henderson? He was ass last season, if I'm not mistaken. He's one of those guys who, when the team around him is very good, he can look decent. As you can see, you know, those 2 seasons where the team was loaded, he was not half bad. But last season, maybe ass was a bit of an overstatement. But, no, man, he just, yeah. That guy averaging 57 yards a game, no. That was not him anymore when the talent left. Which is fair. I mean, you could say that about a lot of guys, but I have to throw him in low-key bummy because it was so obvious that he was not that good. And he was just a product of how good the team around him was. But yeah, I mean, pretty predictable fall off there from Darrell Henderson. McCaffrey. Is he the first white guy on this list? Hold on. Is he the only white? No, there has to be more white running backs in Chris. What the fuck? That's crazy. I thought there was like several white running backs. Like where's Rex Burkhead? I guess he's never really been on it. That's crazy. Well, let's show some diversity here. Put McCaffrey at the top of all pro because god damn it, he's that valuable. I thought the Niners were going to the Super Bowl. Well, I picked the Eagles, but they were just so on fire with McCaffrey. I mean, he threw a touchdown on the Niners. He caught one. He ran for many, many touchdowns. I mean, just look at this. In 11 games with the Niners, 11 games, 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, and a passing touchdown. That's crazy, man. Almost 1,900 on the season. He just does so much, man. He's so valuable. Only player ever, I think, with 1,000 rushing yards, 1,000 receiving the same season. And just look at his career. Rookie season, dealt with injury. No, he didn't even deal with it. Just good rookie season, monster sophomore, monster third year, injuries, monster sixth year. Go with that as you will. You could call me a little hypocritical for ranking CMC this high, but not Barkley this high. But in reality, I think CMC just showed a lot more than Barkley did last season. That's why he is at the top of all pro. And the only guy, in my opinion, who is interchangeable with that best slot with King Henry. Elijah Mitchell, let me make sure here. He dealt with injuries. He missed almost all of last season. Was never really healthy. His rookie season was very good, though. Very underrated rookie season. Look at that. 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. No fumbles. No fumbles after 274 touches. That's a little impressive. But, yeah, I mean, last season he was in, he was out. Never really got a lot of opportunity in there, especially when McCaffrey got in. But, I mean, I'll put him in the 8. Just not a lot of body of work, you know. Kenneth Walker, though. Keep in mind here, we're talking about, based off this season, going into next season. Kenneth Walker goes at the top, near the top of Pro Bowl, man. Because next season, what he could do, if he stays healthy, behind the new and improved offensive line, Kenneth Walker could have 1,600 yards from scrimmage. He could have 13, 14, 15 touchdowns. Yes. So, I just love Kenneth Walker. You can acknowledge the Seahawks bias and still say that he's going to be a monster next season. Moving on, though, Rashad Penny. Hurts as a Seahawks fan how he ended his time here. But with the Eagles, man, looking at the next season, I have to put him at the top of very good. Because behind that offensive line on the Eagles, let me just put it like this. Rashad Penny, my prediction for the comeback player of the year next season. Keep that in mind. Could potentially average over 6 yards a carry for the third straight year, by the way, behind that Eagles offensive line. Najee Harris, very tough. My opinion on him has not changed. I think he's a very good Pro Bowl caliber running back. But the offensive line has been so bad in Pittsburgh. But I think next season, that team overall could break out. And Najee, you better believe, will be a big force, a driving factor of that. Is this Kenneth Gainwell? Bro, I'm not even going to talk about Kenneth Gainwell. Cordero Patterson. Sucks that he was not able to stay fully healthy last season because he's such a versatile weapon. I'm so happy that he found a home in Atlanta where they know how to use him because he can do everything. We've always known that, but they're appreciating him in Atlanta now more, which I love to see. James Conner, I'm going to put him in low-key bummy because I'll admit, he's better than Eno Benjamin. He's better than Zonovan Wilson, but he's one of those guys where he gets a whole lot of carries, but he does not do much, man. I know he lead the league in touchdowns the other season, but he's just not that good. Last up, we got A.J. Dillon. I'm going to put him in I because he's still in Aaron Jones' shadow, but overall, he's very strong runner and has a lot of room to improve. That's going to be it for this video. I got to go. You cannot even fucking see me no more. Just know that I'm...
It's out the motherfucking back. Right out the niggas don't know how to act.